A very good morning to all my dear students. Today we are going to start our new topic from the writing skills section, that is note making. But before starting our video, let's start with the definition of note making. What do you mean by the note making here? Note making is the art of being able to abstract the relevant ideas. Relevant ideas means the main and the subsidiary ideas. While going through information, study material, report or reading material, etc. It means it's a kind of art in which we can make ourselves able to abstract the relevant ideas into the in the brief manner. Now let us learn the art and imbibe the ability. Here we have some the learning outcomes. It means what will be the result and what will the outcomes of the note making here. Here, by the end of the online note making class, students will be able to. The first point here refers to that it makes notes from a lengthy passage with proper indentations and abbreviations. Second, here we goes for the reviews, their own notes, and third one is here with a create a useful revision document or study aids for the future use. The next, how it can be helpful to us. It is very useful skill which helps us to remember the information gathered. Here the second point refers to make point revision from the exams. Third point, store supplements material taken from the reference books and journals. Fourth one says condense lengthy lessons in the shortest ones, and the last but not the least is the understand better. Now, what are the characteristics of the good notes? It means how can you consider that notes as a good one? The first thing is brevity. Brevity means you have to write it down to the point and in the brief manner. Next is relevance. Relevance should be that the topic in which you are writing about the note making, it should be on the relevance, and it should like the clarity, and note should not be of the brief but that of clarity. We should not be lost. Here is a note form. We should be in the logical sequence should be maintained. We have to make abbreviations and the simple which have to used. In the fifth point here says include all the important informations, and you don't have to sacrifice the relevancies of the alter brevity. Sixth one is that the logical presentation should have heading and intended subheadings. We will go through subheadings and indented subheadings in the next slide. Here we have the sum of the steps. Step 1, read the passage carefully. Then try to get the theme and the subject of the passage. Here is step 2, you have to identify the main ideas after reading it carefully, and you have to add important supporting details. Step 3, you have to make notes of the main ideas under heading, add subpoints under subheadings. Step 4 here says that you have to choose the proper layout. Proper layout means you have to choose the proper printout. Here we says that there are 3 types of form in which we can lay out our note making. One is intended linear form, second is sequential form, that is tabular, third one is tabular form. And flow chart, pie chart, graph and diagram, these are all comes under the tabular form. But we usually intended linear form used as sequential form. Now let's move towards the next slide and let's know what is the indentations. Indentations means the leaving space at the beginning of the line. At the beginning of the line means the margin line of the print or writing. First write the title and then write down the notes in logical order. From the main heading to the subheadings, the numbering should be placed a little to the right hand side. As you are able to see here, there are 2 forms of indentations in which you can write your note making. First is here the main section. Main section will be refers to 1, 2, 3 and 4, etc. Then subsections will be like A, B, C, D. If you will convert your subsection into subsections, then you have to come across with the first, second, third and fourth as is given in the third line. Here is the format of the intended format related to this one. Now we are come across the decimal system. If we have the decimal system, then we have to consider with the point in between the two of the digit. Now here the main section will be considered as follow, as like the first one, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and etc. Then you have to divide that section into the subsection like 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 etc. Then the subsections. If you will consider them as a subsection, then 1.1.1.1. Then next you have to conclude with the two of the points. Here is the format given of the intended form of the decimal. Here is the first point, that is main section. Then here is the subsection, and these are the subsections. Now let's move towards the next slide. These are the same thing which I just told you earlier in the previous slide. Here is the decimal one. This is one also the same. Now abbreviations are the most important part of a note making. What kind of abbreviation we will use here? Now we will learn what kind of abbreviation we will use in this slide. Here the capitalized first letter of the word. For example, here it says, if you have to write abbreviations of United Nations Organization, as it is a name of the organization, then you have to capitalize the first letter, U for United, N for nation, or for organization. Now here is the symbols. Symbols like these are some common symbols you can use whether in your note making or you can make your own. For example, I.E.E. that is the symbol of that is. Then here is the arrow going to upwards, that is the sign of symbol of rising. At the rate of, you can say this example for this is equals to, you can use all these symbols. Now let's move towards the next slide and learn more abbreviations. For the abbreviations of doctor, professor or anything, engineer, you can use such kind of abbreviations. For example, DR dot for doctor, PROF dot professor. Now fourth one is says using number for the figures. For the figures means the digital figures in the mathematics. For example, if you will use the 12m, that will refers to the meter. If you are using the 27 kg, then it refers to the 27 kilograms. Now fifth point refers to here that using the first few letter of the word. If you have some technical words, for example education, technical, then you can mention as them follow. For edu dot abbreviations for education, TECH abbreviation for the technical. In short form, if I will say what is the abbreviation, abbreviation is to write them into the shorter form with the dot mentioning below them. Now 6th point refers to that using the first few and last letter of the words. For example, if you are using the government, you are using also the first three letter and the T for the last, right? So you can use just like your own perception. And here the standard ST of the first one and D is the last. So here we using the first and the last letter of the word. Now same type of abbreviation we can use here is that you have to using the first few and last few of the words. Now here REGN, you have just catch out some of the words from the in between of the word and you get the abbreviation. For example, limited, LTD dot, L from the starting, D from the middle, D in the end. Now 8th says that using the short words for the long words. For example, cop means the policeman. Now these are some kind of abbreviation you can use in your note making. You can make your own even, but you have to mention that what you have written in the last. I will tell you how can you mention all these abbreviation in the last. Now move towards the next slide. Here we have the marking scheme. It may conduct of the 8 mark totally, but here we have the 4 mark. 4 mark is for the note making. As the title contain 1 mark, and the content and the expressions in which we include the heading, subheading with the proper indentations and the notes, it includes over 3 marks. And then the last is abbreviation in the note making, which is usually called symbols. Any 4. It should not be less than 4 or 3. Now it contains of 1 mark. So it is of the totally, you can consider it as 5 marks, but note, here we have some notes. Let's consider what can be here in the notes. The first point refers that the notes should include the main points and the subtitles and recognitions, abbreviations. Now second point, he refers that complete sentences are not accepted as notes. Okay. Now we can consider that if any of the candidates write complete sentences, then it will deduct the half of the mark from the total. Now, 3 is that number of the points can be indicated in different ways. These should be accepted as long as consistent pattern is followed. Now, here is the layout. Here is the total layout. How can we refer all these things into a note? Here we have the heading, subheading, subheading. First of the title here. Then we have just given through the all paragraphs, and for each paragraph we have just made for the 3 main headings and another subheadings. Now in the last we have just given the key to abbreviations and the symbols. Here in the box you will write the key to abbreviations and the symbol. Move towards the next slide. Here we can say, if the question arises, then how can we make notes from the larger piece of text? Then here is the text. It is not larger, but I will give you in the brief manner that I will tell you how can you make the notes of this one. So let us read first. Here he says, life in ancient Egypt was centered largely on agriculture. We come to know that it's all about the Egyptian life, Egyptian culture. Because in the first line here says, the life in ancient Egyptian was centered largely on the agriculture. The next line refers that the majority of the people were involved in the farming, and the growing season lasted 8-9 months. Wheat, fruits, vegetables were the principal crops, although there was some pastoral farming of cattle, sheep and goats. Farmers in ancient times worked to a reach of level in substance so that they could feed themselves and pay their taxes. During the annual flooding of the Nile, which typically lasted from the July through November, farming was impossible. But when the water receded, a thick layer of fertile silt over the farmland remained to ensure rich soil for the crops and thick grasses for the grazing animals. From this very paragraph, we come to know that it's all about the agriculture and the culture of the Egypt. Here the theme is of agriculture. Now let's move towards the next slide and we come to know what are the main points of this very paragraph. Here we have some which I just underlined in the slide. These are the main points you can say, and you have to mention all these things into a note making. Now, main agriculture here in the first growing season. So these are some of the headings and subheadings. Now let's move towards the next, and here is the fully note making of your ancient Egypt. I just given the ancient Egypt, but you can also mention here the ancient Egyptian culture. So here we have some subheadings. Heading first, the main profession. Main profession is here the what we can call it is the heading, and then agriculture will be lead to subheading. Then 1.1.1, that is PRI and dot. Here you use the abbreviations for the principal. So here which I just mentioned in the box. So all you have to write it down like this. It should not be like the full length sentences. It has been given that if this is your margin line, then the heading is here, but the subheading should be 1 inches away from the margin line. And for example, like this, subheading should be of the 2 inches away from the margin line. You have to mention like this. It should be like neat and clean. It should not be like the messy. And it's noteworthy to say that you have need to make it lengthy. No, note making are not for the lengthy perception, these are for the shorter one. Now let's move towards the next slide, where we have some of the examples. Here is the example of one paragraph I have just given you, and you have to make you have to just consider, and you have to make the notes on the content of the above paragraph in any format which you like. It may be the decibel, it may be the indented, but the foremost thing is that of using abbreviation. Here we have the supply of the suitable title also. Now here we have some of the things that it contains of the 8 mark, here 5 and 3, but in the previous slides we have just come to know it's only 5 mark. But do not get confused, children, that it only the note making will contain the 5 marks. If you will give the summary, as it will be the essential part of note making, you have to be paid the 3 mark for this. And you will how to make the summary? You will make the summary from your given notes, which you just given the points in your notes. So here is all about the note making, students. I hope that you have been understand. Now let's practice, and I will provide you the PDF in the last of the lecture. Now meet you soon. If you have any kind of query, please feel free to contact me at any time.